Hey everybody, welcome to Ancient Echoes. I'm Austin and this is Bronson. We're bringing you tonight a snippet from our King Solomon History and Legends video. It's actually the very end of that video, and in that section, it has a very important message in it, and it's something that has blessed us, and I think about it every day now in my everyday life. And that message is to finish well. So without further ado, we're going to play that for you now, and thank you guys for coming and watching, and we'll see you next time.
Was King Solomon's death natural or a punishment from God? King Solomon ruled over Israel for 40 years. He built the magnificent temple in Jerusalem and amassed a fortune of gold. He was renowned for his wisdom and justice, but he also had a weakness. He loved many foreign women who turned his heart away from God. He built altars for their idols and worshiped them, angering the Lord. God said to him, "Because you have done this, I will tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant." The Bible doesn't say how he died, but some say he died of old age, some say he died of regret, and some say he was killed by enemies.
Yeah, that's something that I don't have much of an opinion on or even much thoughts on about how he died. I mean, do you have much there?
The main thing is that where God says if he'd follow his commandments, that he would, his life would be long. And it doesn't appear that he lived past around 55 years old. So I think that, that was a punishment in itself, not a punishment, but he didn't follow like he was supposed to follow with all his heart like David did. So he wasn't long in years. And let's go to our closing message here. We found this. I thought it was beautifully written, and gives us a good message to kind of close out after a lot of that kind of dark stuff and esoteric stuff. Bronson, if you want to go ahead and go through this, let's close it out with this.
Absolutely.
Unlike Solomon, finish well.
Yes. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God. And the heart of David his father had been. There was certain military leader in the Revolutionary War who impressed General Washington so much that he nicknamed him the Fighting General. George Washington's fighting general successfully attacked and captured Fort Ticonderoga from the British in 1775. In 1776, this general led a successful campaign to keep the British from invading the colonies through the Lake Champlain region. And his greatest victory was at Saratoga in 1777, which led to the French coming into the war as America's most important allies. What was this hero's name? Benedict Arnold. Yes, Benedict Arnold was a brilliant general during the early years of the Revolutionary War. But on September 25th, 1780, he defected to the British side. And ever since that day, Benedict Arnold's name has been synonymous with being a traitor. Although Benedict Arnold did some marvelous things for our country, they will always be overshadowed by his treachery. Sadly, Benedict Arnold ended his military career very poorly. Simply put, he didn't finish well. The same could be said of King Solomon. The first 10 chapters of the First Kings are, for the most part, very encouraging. Solomon was a man blessed by God with incredible wisdom and wealth, and he was a gifted leader and impressive orator, and most importantly, a faithful follower of God. But as he came down to the home stretch of his life, he failed miserably. Although he had the IQ of 2 Einsteins, the riches of 4 Donald Trumps, and the wisdom of 10 Zig Ziglars, 1 Kings 11 reveals that Solomon finished his life very poorly. In the words of the Bible commentator Dale Ralph Davis, chapter 11 is the dull thud after the high hopes of chapters 1 through 10. Instead of ending on a high note, Solomon's life ended with a dull thud. And the biggest reason for this was his divided loyalty. You see, Solomon's 40-year reign began and ended with love. Unfortunately, during those 40 years, his love shifted. At the start of his reign, we read these encouraging words. Solomon showed his love for the Lord by walking according to the statutes of his father David. Yet, by the time we get to the end of Solomon's reign, we read that Solomon loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, "You must not intermarry with them. They will surely turn your hearts after their gods." We are then told in verse 3 that Solomon had 700 foreign wives, in addition to his 300 concubines, and they pulled his heart away from the Lord and toward their pagan god. Solomon still loved God with part of his heart, but tragically, he divvied up the rest of his heart into 700 pieces that he distributed amongst the idol-worshipping wives. According to Jesus, the greatest command in the Old Testament is, love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Without a doubt, as time passed, Solomon drifted from his first love. God, it's so sad, dude. I could cry. He no longer loved God with all his heart, all his soul, all his mind, or all his strength. In our melting pot culture, some might ask, what's the big deal? Well, consider this. We read in 1 Kings 11 that on a hill east of Jerusalem, most likely the Mount of Olives, Solomon set up worship centers to Ashtaroth, Molech, Chemosh. Ashtaroth worship traditionally involved orgies with male and female prostitutes. Molech worship involved child sacrifice, and Chemosh worship involved forms of human sacrifice. Although Solomon probably didn't participate in these more heinous worship activities, they were an integral part of the religion back in his wife's homeland. And regardless of what labels we affix to ritual prostitution and child sacrifice, they are at their heart demonic. On that very same hill of Jerusalem, where Jesus would one day sweat drops of blood and pray, "Not my will, but yours be done," Solomon was building shrines to bloodthirsty demons. On the same hill where Jesus would receive a kiss of betrayal from one of his friends, King Solomon himself was betraying his first love. On the same hill where Jesus would be bound and led away to sacrifice his own life for you and me, Solomon was worshiping murderous demons who required parents to sacrifice their own innocent children in a sacrificial fire. Was Solomon's idol worship a big deal? You better believe it was. And even though God rebuked Solomon and warned him that judgment was coming, Solomon didn't respond with humility, sorrow, or repentance. There is no indication that Solomon ever repented from his idol worship or tore down the pagan altars. He finished his life surrounded by hundreds of beautiful women, untold riches, and every type of pleasure that a person could ever desire. But he died a shell of a man, empty, hopeless, and full of regret, like Benedict Arnold. Although he was a man of great potential who started his adult years so well, Solomon finished his life so poorly. When our loved ones look back on our final years here on earth, will they say the same of you and me? I sure hope not. Let's finish well. Dude, I started to cry reading that, man. That's just so powerful, bro. That's just so strong. Wow. In the world of martial arts, we call them shooting stars. They come in, you spend so many hours outside looking for a shooting star on the night of a meteor shower. And if you look the wrong way, you'll miss one. They're so fast. And when you see one, it's like, I've waited for hours. And you see it, and it's just so bright and it's beautiful. And by the time you actually see it and know what you're looking at, it fades out and it's gone. And that's, I feel so bad for... Yeah, I just hate that. But anyway, dude, my heart's kind of flooded on that. I'm going to let you talk a little bit while I regain my posture here and get my man.
Well, I appreciate you reading all that. I know it's a mouthful, but I thought it was important to show some similarities, in that between Benedict Arnold, who started out strong but ended up being a traitor to what he once stood so strong for. The same thing with Solomon. He was responsible for building the temple, the house of God, and to ruling over God's people in the Holy Land. And he ended up being a traitor. And in Hosea, it calls it, a prostitution. He prostituted himself. He whored himself out to other gods and betrayed the Most High that had entrusted him with everything. I mean, literally everything you could have back then. And it's a sign to us to finish the race strong, to stay on that straight and narrow path, to follow to follow the laws of God, and to not stray off that path, because even one little thing can snowball, and you'll wake up one day like, man, what has my life become? And you could trace it back to that one decision you made and that one sin you made. I know it's happened to me. I'm talking from firsthand experience. This can happen. And I told you, I relate to Solomon in a lot of ways. His love for women and falling off the path and not doing what I was supposed to do. I'm just glad that I've been able to flip it around. You know what I mean? And I'm going to do my best to finish well, to finish strong, to run the good race. And that's what we all need to do.
Wow.
To look at Solomon as an example that no matter how blessed we are, no matter how hard we're walking after God, that there are pitfalls out there. And if we don't stick, follow the 10 Commandments, at the very least, just follow the 10 Commandments and follow after what our Father says. Your Father tells you things for a reason, because he wants the best for you. And if we stray off that path, especially knowingly sinning, it leads to destruction, and it can lead to destruction real quick. So let's use Solomon as an example. Stay on the straight and narrow path, and follow after the Most High God with all of our heart.
Thank you so much, Austin, man. You did a fantastic job putting this video together tonight. I know you worked tirelessly getting content and videos and links and scriptures and texts and all sorts of things, man. So I really do appreciate it.
I tell you, man, the hardest part of it, I know this is a long video, guys. The hardest part was just trying to narrow it down. There's a lot. There's a lot of there. Sometimes we cover videos like the 4 Horsemen video. Believe it or not, there's not a whole lot out there. YouTube kind of got us with the algorithm on that one. The impressions are just low. So if you guys want to go check that out, but there's not a lot on that. There's just nothing worth a crap, really. To be honest with you, there's a lot of like weird stuff that doesn't make any sense and that has no kind of context or text to go back to. But with Solomon, it's a total opposite. There is so much, and there's so much weirdness and so many texts and magical grimoires and demonology books that are attributed to Solomon that really the tough part was cutting out and just trying to give it a cohesive message to it. But really, that's the message, is just to finish strong, guys. And if you made it throughout this whole video, we appreciate you guys and we love you guys. Be looking out for some more reaction videos. We just dropped one tonight as a recording, so if you guys see that one on old Lil KC, Kenneth Copeland, we did some reactions to him. We got some music reactions coming out. We're going to be right back in our Genesis commentary, continuing our Abraham story. We basically covered just the early life of Abraham in our last video, Abraham and the House of Idols. And we're going to be continuing that in our next full-length video. But we got a lot of stuff coming out, guys. So just stay tuned and like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much. And we will see you next time on Ancient Echoes.